I'd like to welcome everyone to the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen for Wednesday, December 11th, 2019. I apologize. I'm going to try to keep going as long as I can. I'm fighting a cold. Item 1 on the agenda, to ask everyone to stand. We will recite the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda is the Woodbridge Board of Education. I would invite Superintendent Bob Gilbert up. Welcome back. Nice to see you.
It's good to be here. I'd rather be seeing you than all the hospital items that I was looking at for a week or so. And I will tell you that I did miss being here in October and November. So it's good to see all of you back, and thank you for your wishes of good health and all of that. And also an early happy holidays to everybody. So I'll be covering some normal things that you hear from time to time, month to month. I'm going to talk about enrollment first. Enrollment at Beecher has held steady this year, actually steady from last year to this year. We are at 847 students currently, which is about 7 more than we had at the end of last year. But it's below the projected 868 students that our demographer a year ago had predicted. Some of you know, I've mentioned before, that oftentimes enrollment during the course of the school year actually goes up as the year goes on. Actually, that was not the case during last year, and we will be monitoring that obviously during the current year. We're at 847 now, about 7 more than last year. Our current fiscal year 20 budget, at this current time, we had a finance subcommittee meeting this past Monday night. We discussed a lot of things. We've also discussed that we have had to do some temporary mid-year hiring due to some mandated special education needs of students that we did not anticipate. Despite that, we do have currently an overall surplus in our budget of $59,017, made up of a SPED surplus of $128,000 and change, and a regular ed deficit of about $69,000 and change. And the regular ed deficit is really due to unanticipated legal costs and a number of leaves that impact the budget as well. So we'll be monitoring that and giving you a monthly update as we move along. We also discussed at our Finance Committee, as we always do, our cafeteria and E-Day program budgets, which have been very successful to date and running well in the black. Tomorrow night I'll be back here and presenting the capital budget for the Woodbridge School District, Beecher Road School. I want to again thank those of you around the table who've had spent the last 2 years. If you've had a chance to attend our building walkthrough, I hope that this has helped to quantify the needs of the facility. We'll be submitting our 6-year capital submission tomorrow night. We will continue to show all the different areas of need that the facility has. However, as a response to the town's request, we will only be asking for a limited number of dollars this coming or for next year. And this hopefully will assist the town. I know the town wants to concentrate on retiring current debt, so that's why we're going to be coming in with a smaller number for next year. In terms of our construction of the operating budget for next year, likewise, we are looking to be as responsive as possible to the fiscal needs of the town in regards to our operating budget that we're putting together. To this end, I'll be presenting my superintendent's recommended budget to the Board of Education this coming Monday at our 7 o'clock regular meeting. As many of you know, we created a budget task force this year, which included representatives from the various stakeholder groups, board members, parents, various staff members, and it was really a great process that allowed us to generate sort of a think tank, an open forum of ideas, and also was a way to answer people's questions as they went back to their respective groups, questions that they might not have had a chance to ask otherwise. So we'll be bringing that budget to you, obviously, once it goes past the Board of Ed, and we'll be bringing it to you in the winter. On a facilities update for all of you, I would like to thank the town for including us in the LED lighting upgrade. Thank you, Betsy. I know you've been working on that real hard. We're looking forward to that lighting upgrade, I believe, in the winter months as it will get going at Beecher Road School. Also, I mentioned this before, but just to remind you that Phase 2 of the HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning improvements that we spoke about quite a bit last year, in the last couple of years, Phase 1 was done over the summer, and Phase 2 is going to be done during the course of the December break. So we're looking forward to that and completing that process. In the areas of student achievement, during the fall, since this is my first opportunity to come back and say this, our principal, Lisa Sherman, presented a very engaging and informative testing report at the October Board of Education meeting. The report focused on our recent successes on the state-administered Smarter Balance test. Featured students' overall achievement levels and demonstrated growth was very impressive and placed us again in the top tier of school districts in the state. On another topic, you may know that we've engaged the services of CABE, Connecticut Association of Boards of Education, the services of CABE, one of their consultants, to guide our hiring process of a permanent principal. A joint stakeholder committee of Board of Education members, parents, various staff members have been selected, and we had our first meeting this past week, and we're getting ready for the interview process, which will happen in late January, early February. The annual Beecher Road School Winter Holiday Concert was held last night. Student performers, band, orchestra, chorus, and jazz members played to a packed house of enthusiastic parents and family members. I'm sure some of you remember those days as well, and it was obviously a great time for everybody there. There's many classroom and grade level holiday programs going on this time of the year, which builds a tremendous sense of community in our classrooms and grade levels, as well as a lot of parent pride. That concludes my report, and I have nothing else to say except unless you have any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Okay.
Okay, good to be here. Okay.
Thank you. It's nice to see you.
Thanks.
Thank you. You have a good holiday season,
You too.
Thank you. I'm okay. I'm hanging in. Item 3 on the agenda is the first Selectmen's report. I'll begin this evening with an update on the conversations with the Amity Woodbridge Historical Society. Yesterday, several members of the Board of Selectmen met at the Darling House for a tour of the facility. I was unable to attend as I was ill. I will ask Mika to give a brief summary of the visit, please.
We did attend the meeting. 4 of us were able to attend the meeting yesterday with the Amity Woodbridge Historical Society. The tour, if you've not been there, was it's quite a place. It's quite a treasure here in our town, and you should take the opportunity if you have the opportunity to tour the place. The Darling House. We met with the representatives of the Darling House to review what could be done and action that can be taken as relates to the caretaker facility and their need for the caretaker. We are looking at a number of different options at this point in time, a few of which are more feasible than others. And it is our hope that we will continue to work on the agreement. The agreement, we hope, based on our discussions yesterday, we had indicated that we would look to the January meeting for us to review the particulars as relates to that agreement and continue to work on a solution that would enable the town to retain the benefit of the asset of the farm that's located at the Darling House, as well as also provide the Amity Historical Society with what they need as far as caretaker is concerned in the facility for the caretaker. So there's more discussion that needs to be had, and we will be looking in.
We have to, as Dr. Stella used to say, we have to sharpen our pencils and get it done. So I'm committed to trying to do that. Does anybody have anything to add that went on the tour? No? Okay.
Someone couldn't make it.
I couldn't make it either.
I couldn't make it either, but the question, the agreement, there's two I say two phases to this agreement, for lack of a better word, right? We're talking about the farmer and the caretaker, and then aren't we also negotiating with the town and the AWHS in terms of a renewal of their agreement, whatever you want to call it, lease or agreement? Or,
yes.
Yeah, we are.
So are those on parallel tracks?
Well, so far they're not. I received some information, a proposed draft of something that was not approved by the Historical Society. I just looked at some of my emails from Dwight and Miriam saying that he's waiting for approval. We haven't done that. I think we sort of were waiting to see what the threshold issue decision is going to be, because on whether the caretaker farmer is allowed to stay or whether the farmer needs to leave. And that, I think, is a Board of Selectmen decision that you need to get done. There's some discussion today about we should be working on an agreement regardless of what that decision is. If that's what you want, we can do that. And that's what that seems like that's what you want.
It doesn't seem to make sense. I mean, by putting that on hold, it almost, I mean, are we really saying that, well, if we don't reach terms with Farmer Ethan, then we don't want to deal with the AWHS?
No, you're not saying that at all. But
Well, then why aren't we negotiating with the AWHS?
so then you have to, there is proposals, as I understand it, I wasn't on it, there's proposals out there for the farmer and the AWHS to agree on, as Mika said, on this temporary housing. If that can be agreed upon within the next couple of days, then we have an entirely completed agreement. If it's going to take a week, then we'll have an entirely completed. If it's going to take 6 months, then yes, you're right.
It's already taken 6, so my suggestion would be we get right to negotiating the agreement with the, that's just one guy's.
And then we're going to talk about then how do we handle the issue about the caretaker apartment in the agreement, because it's got to be, it's an integral part of the agreement. You can't have the
The
agreement
board will
without.
have to decide what they want to do with the caretaker apartment.
You've got to handle it
Once and
some
for
way,
all.
because in the existing agreement that I
If
just
we
gave
go
to
forward.
Sandy, that is
Yep.
a big, that is a part, at least a paragraph. Well, how do you handle that issue with an agreement with the Historical Society? That's the issue.
And we could certainly come to talk about it next month and make a decision if the board would like to. I'm willing to put it out there.
I for one think we should, one way or another, get this done in
Okay,
January,
great.
since we're not doing it tonight.
I know, I'm
Everybody
with you.
agrees.
Okay.
I
Everybody
agree.
agrees,
I
100%.
agree.
Yeah, but what I don't want to do is, as we talked about yesterday, I don't want to come to January's meeting and then say, okay, we're going to talk about it and not do anything until February or March.
No, we just said,
Our
we
big-
just said
I understand, but
let's
I'm
make a
just, you know,
decision in
it's-
January, once
okay.
and for all.
And that will make it much more likely to have a full agreement. If once you
Right.
make that decision, then that's an integral, that is probably the main part of the agreement, and then everything else will flow very
Right.
easily, I think.
Okay. Sound good? Okay. Thank you, Mika, for filling in there. Thank you for that part of my report. I would like to please join me in congratulating our Finance Director, Tony Genovese, in addition to all his other awards. I understand you received the Certified Connecticut Municipal Official Award at last week's CCM conference. The program is open to all 169 Connecticut towns and municipalities. He was one of 65 recipients of the award, which went to everyone who completed 36 hours of professional development in a variety of topics. He completed, as I said, 36 hours, and he was one of the 65 town officials in the state of Connecticut who were recognized for doing this. So thank you for doing that and keeping our town, you're the best. I'm riffing. It's not written down here. Also tonight, I hope to discuss possible dates for a special town meeting and referendum for the sale of a portion of the former Country Club of Woodbridge. You'll remember that in October, the board voted unanimously to reschedule the special town meeting and referendum dates in order to have a fully negotiated sales agreement in place prior to the referendum vote available for residents to review. My proposal is to vote at the January 8th meeting for a special town meeting, to perhaps have the special town meeting on Tuesday, January 28th, and the referendum on Tuesday, February 11th. Attorney Weiner will present the draft contract to us a bit later in this meeting under executive session. So we won't be picking the dates tonight, if that's okay with everyone. Because we have a draft contract, but you'll see it needs a little bit of, we have to discuss it first. As a reminder, the current proposal is for the town to sell approximately 60 acres of the 155 acres for $5.4 million for construction by Insight Werner of no more than 120 units of freestanding active adult housing. Additionally, Insight Werner, at no cost to the town, will remove the old clubhouse, repair the town pool, build a new pool for use by town residents, and renovate and beautify the walking trails for all residents to experience the beauty of the undeveloped portion of approximately 95 acres. After completion of all units, the town will realize approximately $1.5 million in home property tax revenue every year from the residents who purchase these homes, plus additional tax revenue for personal property. I think we all agree that we must reduce our mill rate and bring relief to taxpayers. Our town has few opportunities to grow revenue. An opportunity such as this may never come again. Our debt on the property will not be paid off for another 12 years. With this sale, we will pay off the existing debt on the property, saving $500,000 each year in principal and interest payments, and retain an additional $1.4 million for other needed projects. For those concerns about zoning ramifications, if the senior housing project is approved, I suggest again that you stop by Town Hall to pick up a copy of the zoning opinions the town received from two highly qualified land use attorneys. The town was advised that any attempt by a developer to use these zoning approvals as legal precedent for similar housing development in other areas of town would require the approval of town plan and zoning, and the denial would probably withstand legal challenges from any developer. We voted unanimously last month to set aside money from the sale of personal property that remained in the clubhouse and pool in order to engage the services of a landscape architect, land use analyst, to advise us on the best passive recreational uses for the undeveloped land that the town will retain. I am committed to do this, whether or not the approximately 60 acres are sold for development of senior housing. I have proposed that a portion of the unsold land be used for a beautiful park with potentially a picnic area, sledding hill, walking trails, perhaps a solar park, and a splash pad. These are a few of many suggestions we have received from residents to date. After the referendum on the property, I will establish a diverse ad hoc committee of residents who will work with a consultant on the design to optimize the property as an enduring asset for our town. As I have stated many times before, I plan to vote in favor of scheduling the special town meeting and referendum because I believe that our course forward should be decided by the voters. Since our last Board of Selectmen meeting, I attended an informal event at the JCC to celebrate the life of our building inspector, Terry Gilbertson. Terry had worked for the town since 1998. His expertise, his wit, and his knowledge will be greatly missed. I'd like to thank the JCC for offering us this space. I attended the Thanksgiving luncheon at the Senior Center on November 19th, sponsored by Woodbridge Police Union and the Woodbridge Garden Club. As always, the food was delicious and the event was well attended. On November 20th, I attended the monthly meeting of South Central Regional Council of Government. I'm now serving as the interim chair of the group, as former chairman Madison for Selectman Town Banish did not win re-election, so he's no longer in office as Madison for Selectman. They leave in a week. That's out. So that evening, I also attended the Economic Development Commission's social event at the Woodbridge Social. The event was well attended and a wonderful opportunity to meet several new business owners from our town. Betsy, Tony, and I met with the Connecticut Green Bank on December 2nd to discuss their new municipal assistance program. We looked at various town buildings to see which might be suitable for solar. We do have a few options. We will continue these discussions and keep you informed. That evening, I went to the town's holiday party for board and commission members. As you know, this is an annual event we hold to say thank you to everyone who volunteers their time and expertise for the benefit of our town. I'd like to reiterate the critical importance and value of volunteer participation in our town government. Thank you. This past Friday, I attended the Amity Creative Theater production, Dancing at Lugnasa, and as expected, it was phenomenal. The students performed for over 2 hours with intermission, completely in an Irish brogue. We have such amazing talent in our high school. Lastly, to my fellow board members and others at the table, I thank you all for your support over the past year. Wishing you and yours a wonderful and safe holiday season and a very healthy and happy new year. And with that, before we start with the changes to the agenda, because as long as could we have perhaps we're going to skip number 4 completely because the flyer will not be appropriate until next month. And also, as I said, scheduling the special town meeting with adjournment to the referendum till next month. So with that, I will invite up Jimmy Techie from, are you still with Susan or not? Okay, currently, okay. So you might want to introduce yourself better than I could ever do, Jimmy. I've known you a long time and I love you, but do your thing. I'm losing my voice quickly. Okay.
Selectman, thank you so much for having me. I'm Jimmy Techie. I was with our Congresswoman, Rosa DeLauro, for a long time, so it's wonderful to be in Woodbridge. I am currently senior advisor with our Lieutenant Governor until Friday, and I will be joining Congressman Himes as his district director starting next week. So thank you. It's been an eventful time, but what we have been working on in the Lieutenant Governor's office is the census, the 2020 census, and so I'm here tonight to tell you a little bit about the state's preparedness and then how Woodbridge can play a role in the census. So thank you for your attention on the census because it has a direct impact on every single resident in Woodbridge and across the state of Connecticut. Earlier this year, Governor Lamont formed a complete count committee for the census and named the Lieutenant Governor the chair of that committee. One of our co-chairs is Secretary of the State, Denise Merrill. The census, as many of you know, happens every 10 years. It is a major effort in advance of 2020 to ensure that Connecticut will be the most accurately counted state in the country. The Connecticut Complete Count Committee is a large advisory group of individuals who are volunteers representing a diverse array of people from across the state, elected officials, faith leaders, nonprofit organizations, community health centers, chambers of commerce, NAACP, Hispanic organizations, and many, many, many others as a representative, diverse body of the state of Connecticut. We have traveled across the state of Connecticut. Believe it or not, we have done 1,500 events and working with our census partners this year, and we have formed 116 local complete count committees. And that's what I hope Woodbridge will help form, a local complete count committee that is a collection of volunteers that's representative of your town. That would be people that can reach every person in your town and get out the word that the census is coming. And counting everyone in this increasingly diverse and growing U.S. population is a mammoth undertaking that demands years of planning and the support from so many people. The success of the census ultimately depends on everyone's participation, which is why we have started so early. Connecticut receives $10.7 billion a year based on census funds. Those funds come down to the towns and cities. These are for programs that affect all of our daily lives and your constituents' lives: Medicare, Medicaid, Head Start, community health centers, senior programs, SNAP program, Women's Infant and Children's program, community block grants, Pell grants, and so many others. All of those programs are based on census funds from the census in 2010. So going forward, counting every single person in Woodbridge and across the state of Connecticut will help to secure the funds that Connecticut deserves in the next census. The programs that families across Connecticut rely on are all based on the census data, and it also affects businesses, schools, hospitals, nonprofits, and other public and private entities. It also plays a role with economic growth. As companies are looking to expand or to grow, they're looking at census figures and census tracts to see where best could they put a business or a headquarters. And lastly, the census is about your political power, because after the 2020 census, local, state, and federal lines are redrawn every 10 years, and state and federal lines are based on those census tracts and those census numbers. There is also a jobs opportunity for people in Woodbridge and across the state of Connecticut. The census is hiring. They are recruiting 28,000 people in the state of Connecticut for part-time temporary jobs that pay up to $25 an hour for enumerators, or the door knockers, that you will see next spring and summer. We have encouraged our partners at the US Census Bureau to hire locally. So if someone is in Woodbridge, they will be assigned to Woodbridge. So your friends and your neighbors and other trusted voices are knocking on the doors here in Woodbridge. So it's 2020census.gov is the application for individuals to apply for a job with the census. And the other thing that I will mention is that the state realizes how important the census is, nearly $11 billion in funding. So the state several weeks ago announced $500,000 in census outreach, and that is matched by another $500,000 in philanthropic funds. So in total, $1 million that we will have towards targeting hard-to-count communities. What's a hard-to-count community? The most rural areas are hard to count. The most urban areas, senior citizens, those in group homes, and the largest undercounted community is kids 0 to 5. Because as you're filling out your form, you're not thinking of your baby in the other room who over the course of the next 10 years will be using schools and city services and other services. So we are doing a lot to prepare for kids 0 to 5 to be counted. I do want to recognize Mike, who's here with the census. Wave, Mike. And so he has been assigned to this area in Woodbridge. So any specific questions about the census and the timeline, I would refer you to Mike. I'll just conclude by saying it's the first census that is available by phone, online, and by paper form. So for the first time ever, people can fill out the census online. And if you don't fill it out by phone or online next March, you will get the knock at the door throughout the spring and the summer. And appreciate you having me.
Thank you. I have a question that came up. How are college students counted in terms of if I don't have it anymore, but if I had a student living at my house, but for example, he's at, I don't know, Brown University in Providence, but he's registered to vote here, lives with me. Is it the amount of time that my student would be?
It's where they are, where a person is on April 1st, which is Census Day. So it's
So at
where
their
they
college.
are. Yes. And so we are working in Connecticut, we are working with public and private colleges to get an amount of students that are living on campus or off campus and working very closely, in fact, with the state universities, community colleges, and all the private institutions so that we count college kids because it is where you are on April 1st.
So potentially Providence would benefit more than Woodbridge on that particular count,
Yes,
right?
just as there are communities that could
Interesting.
be undercounted, like the kids 0 to 5, there are some that are at risk of overcounting.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I jumped in there with questions.
No,
Anybody have
okay.
other questions for Jimmy? Okay. Well, thank you
Appreciate
very
your
much. I
time.
appreciate
Thank
you
you.
coming. I know you
Thank
did a
you.
great job at Scroggin. I thought the board should hear.
Thank
You
you so
offered,
much.
so I took you up
Appreciate
on
it.
the offer.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mike, do you have cards, Mike?
Yes, my name is Michael Burke, and my contact information is michael.t.burke, B-U-R-K-E, @2020census.gov. And I've had active meetings with Stephanie, the town clerk, and am working within town with a lot of assets. So, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming out. Okay.
Would you believe I was the first director of
Just because I don't know how long I'm going to last, I had asked, and I appreciate the indulgence of the Fire Commission and the Fire Department and the Police Commission and the Police Department to take both of our executive session items now in the agenda. So I'll make a motion that we move item 16 to item 5.5 in between, and then we'll get back to our agenda. And I'll make that motion. Is there a second to do that? Just in case I don't make it through, I think this is an important one that I'd like to sit in on.
Second.
I'm going to keep going until I can't. Okay, all in favor? Thank you, guys. All right. So now I'll make a motion that we go into executive session pursuant to Section 1-200, parens 6, parens C of the Connecticut General Statutes regarding public safety. And I would invite in for the fire department. What is your plan, Sean, on that one? Oh, sorry.
Make a second.
Well,
No, I second.
Oh, okay. But I have to decide who I'm going to invite in as part of the motion.
Yeah.
No,
Not for the executive session.
no, we voted
Not
to,
for the executive session, but to
No.
change the agenda.
Yeah, but that's already done.
now, right, now I'm trying to, but I haven't finished the motion. Oh, you're talking about the first motion?
First motion.
Okay,
Right,
thank you.
that's the
All right, we did vote on that one.
You can vote on going into executive session, then you can say who comes in.
Okay, so I'll call that we go into executive session pursuant to those statutes, okay?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. As far as the fire department, which is on first, is your commission, who's planning on coming in? Sean? We got a call from Malia, and I couldn't understand what, I'm not clear as to who's joining us. Oh, Karen's here.
Karen from the commission, myself, and members of the executive board.
Aaliyah said, Karen, you, Mr. Case, I think, and Mr. Sabelicos.
And Joe Capucci.
Joe, yes, Joe, the fire marshal, yes, those.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll invite those folks in. As Sean, you want me to say them again for the tape? Pua, would that be helpful? Okay. We'll invite in Commissioner Kravitz, Chief Rowland, Alex Sabelico, Nate Case, who else? Joe Capucci. Is that it? Did I get it right? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll ask. What?
Alex and Kate and Nate are members of the executive.
They
board,
are.
is that correct?
That's correct. And Joe Capucci is?
Joe is also?
Okay, thank you.
We'll have to ask everyone else to leave.
Everyone else has to leave, and we'll just have we'll have the record, and we will go to number 9 because Tom Brandt has been patiently waiting. Was here for it's like 6 o'clock from Amity to give us a presentation regarding the present on the second site for the Amity Transition Academy. The floor is yours, and thank you for waiting. I'm sorry. And then after that, we'll go to public comment, and we'll get back to the agenda. Thank you.
So thank you for having me. We're looking to continue our partnership with the town of Woodbridge and identified the firehouse as a possible second site for our transition academy. Currently, we're responsible for providing special education services to students ages 18 to 21 who require their education to extend past graduation. We currently have one transition academy housed at Albertus Magnus for students who will benefit from being on a college campus. Our ever-increasing needs of our population require us to create a second program that allows students to stay within their community, so within the 3 towns, to be provided with more of a vocational experience. And we identified the firehouse, and I had the opportunity to tour it, because that location would allow our students access to the central hub within the community, close proximity to the high school, allowing them to still receive any supports they may need from high school staff, including what we call related services, so whether that's mental health services, occupational therapy, physical therapies. In addition, with the location at the firehouse, that second floor space, it would give us the ability to have the students engage in vocational experiences with the town library and build partnerships with that. Also, there was talk about access within the senior center, and then eventually, in some of the conversation we had, even food service opportunities with providing different cart methods, through town offices, all giving them vocational experiences that they may require. So through the second tour of the space, we've identified that the space would work well for our needs, especially its proximity. We're targeting right now between 3 to 5 students potentially benefiting from the program next year, along with 2 faculty, and that growing. In an ideal world, if the need continues to grow, we would even open it up to additional towns, should that be an area that other towns need, because school districts are continuously looking for ways to educate their students in local school districts as opposed to having to send them farther and farther away. Our hope would be that we'd be able to start the program, or at least have space for the start of next school year, as that's when our need does arise, for the start of the 2021 school year. We're looking at roughly between our 2 programs, about 12 to 15 students who actually need some kind of services, with about 11 of them being serviced at the college campus. So the program, as I said, about 3 to 5 students starting next school year. Knowing that through the process with the firehouse, it may not be ready. We've worked on identifying secondary options as well, but we're really looking to grow the partnership with the town. And given especially its close proximity to the high school and the supports that it may provide. That's a little bit about that. I'm happy to answer any specific questions people may have. I know the previous director was here once before and, provided some information, but if there are specific questions or details that people would like to know, I'm happy to answer those questions. Yes, it would be the second floor. I know through the shared services, the director of technology has also looked at it to make sure it can meet those needs. Within my own proposed budget, we have allocated funds for any of the appliances that might be needed, and stoves, refrigerators, to make sure that the room can be equipped with those, so that those students would have those. So we'd be able to provide those as part of that partnership.
So it's the big community room and
Correct.
the office space.
Yes, is looking at what was. Yes, when we looked at it, Tony. Yeah,
the kitchen as well, correct? Put a kitchen in there.
Yeah. When
sorry.
we walked through,
Okay.
there was.
Well, there's a warming kitchen right now planned. There's a
Yep.
warming kitchen planned right now up on the second floor.
You're
Not going to be. You don't want a stove cooking actually.
Just say he had money in his budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're going to have,
Appliances.
which means you're going to have a flue.
Yep. So it would be, that'd be all
you're gonna
worked
invite-
with,
you're gonna have
through
all
with
that.
Jim and stuff like that. That'd be the hope that it would have, just like our program has in the high school right now.
Okay.
So what time frame?
In an ideal world, we'd hope to have it for the start of the 2021 school year, so late August, early September of next school year.
And then how long would you like to use the space?
As long as we need it, and I don't see the need dissipating in the very near future at all. I only see our needs actually expanding. When we did some of our projections, we said about 3 to 5 students possibly next year, but growing. The space we would cap at no more than 5 to 7 students total, but we see that space being consistently needed.
Based on the arrangement you have with Albertus Magnus, how
Yep.
would it work with the town?
It would just be an MOU or an agreement for a rental fee. We would provide the staff for it, the technology that we would require within the room, and then I think there'd be some agreement for evening use, but then town use when not being used by us.
Yeah, what we discussed was probably the easiest way to do it is that the town would, aside from the appliances, the
Yep.
town would do the basic construction and then charge back a rental fee or a lease fee for utilities and, the expenses related to debt and all that, some agreed upon amount.
Right.
And
So we've had ongoing discussion.
we have.
Yeah.
So we're towards the end of
We're at the
discussions.
point,
Right.
where we need to
It's up to us now.
Okay.
decide what we were gonna do so we could, get the approval, we'd have to borrow money, plans, the process we usually go through, yeah.
Right, which we've talked about before.
Right.
This helps us
Right.
along the way to make some decisions if we have an understanding with.
Right, this helps with that decision, right?
Right. So I just thought it'd be interesting, because I
Because, I mean, I
didn't know
thought we
anything
all-
about it until, last couple of years.
We all thought that would be a great fit, so I'm
Yes.
happy
Yeah.
that we're at this point.
We do.
And I like the sidewalks from Amity to Town Center.
I
That
agree.
would be very
Mhm.
good.
Agreed.
So what's next?
We have to make a
We
decision.
have to decide
As
the
to-
rest of the facility,
Right, all of it.
so we know what's going in the other
Mhm.
3 bays and whether it's gonna be
Is there?
So do we
is
have a
there-
time
fitness.
plan
or
to get to where we need
meeting
to
I'm gonna-
space folks in by?
My goal is to have this, you got some of the stuff in your packet last month.
Yep.
And I think at the January 8th, here we go again, we're gonna be busy beavers. We're gonna make, I think
We
it's
better
a
start
time
at 2
to,
in the afternoon.
I think
I'm
it's-
telling you.
sort of 4
Seriously.
o'clock, I know,
Yeah.
maybe 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
The finances.
And we'll make a decision on that as well. I think it's
Okay.
important.
And then-
January.
January 8th,
Once you make a
whatever it is.
decision-
Yeah, January
Is it
8th
11th? Is it the 8th?
The 8th.
So the
Okay. yeah.
finances will be kind of at
Once you
least
make the
understood.
decision, yeah, then we can discuss the finances and the timeline for a referendum.
So what would be the decision, I guess, how do?
The uses for the 3 bays and the upstairs.
But the costs associated with for whatever we decide is uses.
Depends on what we decide.
So we have, yeah, and we currently have a architect that has been on board with other parts of the building, so the
Dave.
added
Yeah.
cost probably won't be as much because they already have a lot of background.
Yeah.
And so once we give them the idea of, okay, this is going in bay 1, this is going in bay 2, this is in bay 3, this is upstairs, then they can come up with a scope or a budget, and then you can say, okay, here's the budget, and here's how much we need to borrow, and
We're gonna have an architect.
what's that?
Yes.
The architect?
They don't have to tell us how much we have to borrow, but yes, the plans.
Those are the
architect.
plans.
Yeah.
Plans, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So that's really something that we should really get
Yes.
done.
Yeah, absolutely.
January 8th, so they're piling up. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Have a
Thanks
great
for
night.
waiting.
Okay.
Not a problem.
Okay,
Thanks for your interest in the partnership.
yeah.
Yes,
Thanks so much.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, where were we? Public comments. We skipped liaison, but let's do public comments. Is there anyone from the public here? Okay, Barbara, the lone public person. Good for hanging in.
I guess we waited everyone else out.
We did.
You're hardy folk, hardy New England stock, right?
Hi, Barbara Baldwin. In Woodbridge Historical Society, 46 Orchard Road. First, I'd like to thank Mika, Joe Crisco, Dwight, and Sandy, and the many Historical Society board members and volunteers for coming to the Darling House yesterday. I appreciate the time people spent on the house tour and the discussion. However, I felt the meeting continued along the same path as we've been on since April, and we've expressed these concerns. We're being told that now we will be getting a different result. Here's the pattern. The meeting is scheduled with Beth and Jerry. We scramble our schedules to meet it. The meeting is canceled, delayed. And we, again, scramble our schedules to meet these new dates. The meeting is sometimes held without all the participants. In this case, Beth and Jerry were absent, which leads to a continuity of town information that is not represented. We're told that Beth is supporting us. We're told that more time is needed and to be patient. We're told more time is the farm is integral to Woodbridge. We're told that we, the Historical Society, needs to compromise. We have been compromising, spending extensive time and funds from our society, and we'd like to know what the compromises the farmer has made for all of this. Our town lawyer has provided support for the farmer for his legal needs running his for-profit business. Why is that? Why does the farmer not have to pay any property taxes to the town of Woodbridge and get support from our legal counsel? Jerry has emailed us before Thanksgiving to say that he would not be working on our town agreement that was approved in the last Board of Selectmen meeting. The vote said our lawyer would work with Jerry. He indicated that he was waiting for Ethan's housing needs to be met. That was not part of the agreement in that vote. We're told that we must take the Good to Great grant. The grant requires this agreement that Jerry is not working on. And it defies logic as to why our society would spend the money to match the grant after being told by Jerry that they could potentially kick us out within 6 months without any reason. And that's happened on numerous occasions. And agreeing to work on the grant is not sufficient for us to accept this Good to Great grant. Again, we are not on the Board of Selectmen agenda for discussion or votes. We were told in June the farmer needed to finish his farming season before he could leave the museum apartment. We agreed to that. The season is over. His agreement terminates on December 31st. So I'd like to ask, why are we spending taxpayer funds for a for-profit business? Be aware that the farm does not pay any property taxes to the town of Woodbridge. Is this a new option for all farmers that use town lands, or is it just for this particular farm? Are we providing alternate housing for all tenants of the museum apartment if they're forced to vacate the apartment? What work is being delayed or eliminated at the Darling House because the funds have been redirected to address this issue and now need to be paid by the taxpayer? And why does it take so long for the town to respond? It puts the Darling House and contents at risk. Repairs are delayed, increasing their cost. It forces us to rely on these types of meetings, the public comments, to express our comments. This is December. I mean, we've started this back in April. The vote was in June. And we meet month after month from the society to address these concerns. And I just don't understand. What is the friendship with Leland Torrance and his wish to keep the farmer as the tenant? Why does that take priority over the duties of the select woman to represent this town? There's 5 other farms in this town. There's only one farm that we're fighting over here. I just don't understand. We continue to struggle with getting to completion on any of these items. And I do appreciate that more people are being involved, but we have a time limit for this grant and delaying, and you're asking us to work on something over the vacation time. Everybody's going on vacation. You're saying that you want this stuff to be done in January. That's not a feasible time for people to be working on this and getting it their full attention. So we had many, many more months to spend on this, and we've just been delayed and stonewalled, and I would just like to express my comments, and I appreciate you listening.
So first of all, you said that
Thank
I've
you.
been giving legal advice to Ethan. I have never talked to Ethan other than the time he was at the meetings when you were present or Dwight was present. I have never I've never given him advice. I don't even think I've ever talked to him outside those meetings. That's number one. I would never give him advice. I understand he had his own lawyer that was helping him, but I never gave him legal advice. If you have any examples of me giving him legal advice, I'm happy to discuss it with you outside. Second of all, the issue of not getting an agreement done, on November 18th, I wrote to Dwight Merriam. I emailed, can you give me an update on how the meeting went? This is a meeting that they were having with the architect at the barn, and Ethan was also supposed to be there. I wasn't there. Also, the Board of Selectmen authorized me to begin discussions with you about revisions on the agreement. Is there a time we can talk? He responds, hello, Jerry. The architect and Ethan met on the site Friday. I am told by the architect it went well, and I am awaiting revised drawings. I drafted a new agreement and related lease, which I think is the way to go. That's in parentheses. And the Society's board is reviewing that draft. I will send it when they are done, and we can then have a discussion. I thought it would facilitate moving forward expeditiously if we had a draft to work from. As far as I know, I've been searching for that draft. I don't think I've ever received that draft. That was only on November 18th.
No, but you sent a note that said that you were not working on the agreement until...
I said, after a couple of discussions and an email chain, I said, I understood, this is when they got involved with the architect and were providing for some alternative housing for Ethan. Then we didn't, I wasn't working on anything because we were waiting, as he indicated, what happened with the architect and Ethan at the house. There was a proposal that you were all discussing. And in fact, I think you discussed it at the meeting yesterday. There is no agreement, and you did not approve, as far as I can see, the draft that Dwight sent to you of the proposed lease. I haven't seen it. I don't think I have it. I've been searching for something else. I think that was the last communication I had. Dwight is apparently preparing a new lease and a new agreement for the town to sign with the Historical Society, which will say that the town is actually leasing. I presume it's going to say.
Call them up and ask them where it is.
I
mean, you're saying you're currently working on it. If you really, wanted to push it, you
no, I didn't push it, Joe, because they're meeting with the architect and they have a proposal that they're talking about. And I said earlier that was an integral part of the agreement. You got to know what the board wants to do with the farmer, and I'm waiting for that to happen.
Well, I don't know, but why do we need to know what we have to do with the farmer?
Well, what are you going to say? That they want to lease directly with the Historical Society, and they don't want to lease with the farmer anymore. So we got to cancel that lease.
So the farmer's out.
Right.
No, is that what you're saying? So if that's the case,
Well, I don't know.
Right.
I'm just saying, why do we have to?
That's what we've been stating.
So why don't we have a vote of the board at some point?
and that's what you said earlier, January 8th, you're going to do that.
Okay.
And then we will have an agreement.
Right.
And I don't have anything. I did my
That's
best.
good.
I called him and said, I've been
It's over.
authorized to discuss this with you. He responded, I have sent a draft lease and agreement to my client, the society. I am waiting for them to approve it. Boom. And that's it. What else you want me to do?
I just am concerned about
It's been 8 months.
a comment about spending tax dollars for
Hey,
what
you know,
tax dollars have we spent?
Here's the thing.
I'm asking Tony, what tax dollars have we
I'm not
spent?
sure what you're referring to.
She stated that there was some tax dollars that were spent for a for-profit farm.
Okay, so
What are they?
I don't know, I'm not sure, we should have to indicate.
So what happens is, one of the suggestions that came out was that perhaps the town, Tony was asked at the meeting yesterday, could we find money to support the Historical Society and get someone to do the caretaker check every day? So that's one example.
While Ethan is still
I
there.
understand, but we have not spent, I just want to put it on the record, we have not spent, as of today, any tax dollars on a for-profit
Another example might
adventure.
be-
Is that correct?
Well, another example is when we don't have a caretaker there.
Yeah.
We do not have a caretaker that is taking care of the museum. That if something happens, like when the pipe burst, that came out of the town budget to do that repair.
It was a repair for a house that
We own the house, so we would have to pay for that.
Correct, but that's money that didn't need to be spent if there's people keeping an eye on the place
The
as
first
well,
pipe
so-
still would have burst. We still have to repair it. I mean, we're not spending that on a for-profit adventure, which I think you're assuming is the farm.
Well,
Correct.
anything, if there was damage.
The Darling House isn't for profit, so if a pipe bursts, that's not a for-profit expense, am I right?
Right,
Okay,
right, that's
I just
correct.
I just don't want the public to think that we're spending money on a for-profit.
And I am very concerned about your statement that I am giving legal advice to people. Give me an example of what legal advice, because I'm telling you, I have
hold
never
on a
heard
second.
of it.
Have we all of a sudden lost control of public comment?
Yes,
Well, yes,
we have.
you're right,
I
because
think
Joe,
we've said-
it's gotten, I'm
Well,
being
Well,
accused
I
of
don't know that
things.
this is the way it is.
All right, I think
If
perhaps
we-
we should
if
talk
we-
about this going forward, that we
Well,
should respond.
It's your meeting and you,
Yeah.
but, there's one taxpayer here tonight. When we have 20, are we going to engage in these kind of things?
Joe, I'm going to say, from my point of view, and I said at the last meeting, when I am defamed, and when things have been called into question which are untrue, which are not true, I feel I have an obligation to respond.
Okay.
And that I think is critical for me personally and professionally.
That's well taken.
Okay.
But I've listened to a lot of people here call us out as Board of Selectmen people too, and I don't like everything they say either. So am I gonna say to, start engaging them as to why they're saying that I'm not doing my job?
Has
and I'm
anybody
not
ever
doing-
told you you're not doing
If
your
somebody
job?
told you
Single,
specifically.
you,
no,
Joe,
no,
die
I have
by
not heard
yourself?
No, the Board of Selectmen,
And
I'm on the
that I
Board of
understand.
Selectmen.
That's
Right,
fine.
but why can't I then say, well, what are you
But
talking
I've
about?
personally been told, and now I've been personally, at the last meeting, someone accused me of not acting in the best interest of the town because that person disagreed with me. I take that personally.
I understand there's
That's not saying the
lines and
board
there's
did
this
it.
and that, but again, we've always had a protocol that
Yep.
they talk, we listen.
Okay.
And in the
So-
last month, we've seemed to go way
So maybe we need
astray
to
from
set
that.
some parameters, because I think that there are some, hefty issues where there are differences of opinion. But I feel that if there are factual inaccuracies that are made in public comment, that we have an obligation as a group to correct those factual inaccuracies. And if there are misperceptions of issues, or that we have the right to kind of answer a question. Now, again, we shouldn't be picking on everything.
No.
That's not the goal. But I think those two things are important.
Suppose someone comes up and asks a very important question of us. And typically, in the past, we've sat here like bumps on a log. Oh, we don't answer questions.
No, but you
We
know
don't
what?
engage. No, my point is, where does it stop? I'm not,
Right.
but I'm saying, so if you want to set new protocols, then I think we ought to do it.
Okay.
And we ought
We
to
should
publish them,
discuss it.
and we ought to put them on our website
Okay.
and do that, because
I
I think,
think we should, because
Okay.
we have lots and lots
I'm
of
all for it.
issues, and I think that we do need to have more of a dialogue.
I'm all
And
for
we
it.
can actually limit the time, because I think it
Which
could
we
get out of
should.
hand.
Right.
But I do think that we should respond, because otherwise, the public goes away with thinking things that are not actually true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's their choice as to what they think, but I think that we can also correct inaccuracies.
I don't necessarily disagree,
Okay.
I just think we've gone astray from what our typical
And
protocol
that's
is.
true.
So
That is
if
true.
we
It is
set
true.
new ones, we set
It
new
is
ones and
true.
we follow them.
But we've
Yeah.
also, in my opinion, the public comment has gone a little bit astray as
Right,
well,
but
where
it's
it's not
up to
just
us-
comment,
It's up
it's
to us to control that
it's
too.
accusations, it's
So-
things that are just not true.
So
and
it's up
it's-
to us to control
Absolutely.
that, and we can put those
I couldn't agree
protocols
more.
in as well.
Sure.
Make your comments, no act, whatever we want to do.
Right,
I think we should do it, because we
Yeah.
can't sit here and decide whether we're only gonna talk when we feel, that something
Challenged
said
or-
against
right.
us challenged, and then when someone asks a question that's important to them, we say, no, we don't say
I would
anything.
and I welcome public opinion, I think it's important to hear from everybody at every time, that's what this
Yep.
is all about.
Yep.
But opinions are one thing, and, and to just misstate facts, to me, I just feel is the wrong thing. So
Yeah.
people have to be, and it got a little bit accusatory, let's face it, in the last few months. I think
Well-
we gotta get back to being kind to each other, as I've said all along.
I
Be a little bit
can-
nicer.
I can understand that, but I think we also have to start acting more timely, and then these things don't get to a certain thing, they don't get to a certain point down the road.
And then
so,
it becomes an emergency,
Let's
then it becomes
take
a
these
real.
things off and let's resolve things, and then we don't
Let
have
me tell you
a
something.
taxpayer base that.
When did the firehouse burn down? I'm cranky because I've got a cold. 2006, okay? It still hasn't gotten resolved. Give me a break. I've been here 2 years. There's a lot of things that I'm trying to get done, and sometimes it takes time.
I didn't say anything about it.
I know, I'm just
I
saying
said
timely,
we.
let's tick these things off, so let's do it, I agree with you. But
Yeah, let's
I'm
do
not
it.
taking it personally, I'm just saying, we
Okay.
are a group, and we should all work
Yeah.
together to do these things.
Yeah, let's get them
Okay.
done.
Cranky Beth has spoken.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thanks,
you,
Barbara, you got in
Barbara.
the middle of this one. Thank you. Okay. Public comments or liaison reports. Holy smokes. Joe!
Let me start, because I'm quick, I didn't go to any of my.
Okay, thank you. Dwight?
I'm going to try to make this quick. Inland Wetlands, I went to the meeting on November 20th. There was an application to amend a permit to enlarge a building for art storage at 455 Amity Road. It's under review. It was a continued application for construction of a 2,100 square foot house on 15 Meadowcrest Circle. They're going through the process of inland wetlands approval. And they approved in a request to release a bond for a project that was done on 145 Ancillary Road. And they congratulated Chris Sullivan on her new appointment as enforcement officer. I went to Human Services on December 2nd. They reviewed the budget, and they'll be here tomorrow night, to present it. The capital budget. For the budget review task force, they had a question whether or not there's going to be a separate group formed to study all the recommendations. They wanted to know, is there going to be another, because that's what they were led to believe, is they're waiting to hear about the recommendations that were given to Human Services, perhaps joining with Recreation and all that, and who's going to put that committee together so that could be studied. So that was a question they asked. So I told them I would bring that to the board tonight. So I don't know what the plan is or if there is any plan. For food baskets for Thanksgiving, they made up and they distributed 31 for Thanksgiving. And right now they're planning to do about 40 plus for the holidays coming up very shortly. The fencing has been installed, going down to Human Services, and they're working on the wording for the signage for that.
Is that ramp thing? Ramp?
Yeah, the ramp, yep. And they put the fencing up, and now they're trying to come up with wording for the signage to be used. Youth Services, they're planning to do a Mardi Gras party planned for, right now, February 21st at Amity High School for all the 8th graders. So that should be pretty neat. They are collecting toys for kids until December 14th, so if you're interested in that. And I also know the fire department has a box there for toys for Yale New Haven for the toy closet. The annual Thanksgiving luncheon, they said, had about 125 attend, and they said it was well attended. Great affair on November 19th. And the November newsletter was sent to 3,500 households here in town. So they're getting a word out on their programs. And they wanted to know a little bit more about the process to select a new Human Services director once Mary Ellen retires. She's retiring mid-January, and they just want to know, they'd like to know a little bit more about the process, what's going to be happening, and whatever, so. And then they voted to approve the 2020 meeting schedule.
Thank you.
So that's.
Thanks.
Yep.
Sandy?
Okay, I went to the Area Commission meeting on December 9th, and I didn't realize this, but Lynn Sarah is retiring in April.
April, yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
she is the Assistant Director and the Head of Tech Services. So she does all of the bills, payments, and book orderings and processing and things like that, so maybe there's some opportunity.
Eric is
Tony,
currently
to-
evaluating his staffing
Okay,
and is going to come up with a proposal, I believe, to
okay.
see what's best fit for the library going forward.
Okay, great, that's
Okay.
good. And they are continuing to review all of their policies. The web design will probably be ready to show in full force next month. And again, we did preliminarily take a look at that last month, and I think it's very exciting. I mean, it's quite easy to use, and it has a lot more information on it. And we did talk again about automatic renewals for library materials. And they are going to put this into place so that for all items that can be renewed, because there are certain collections that cannot, those will go on automatic renewal, and they'll develop a press release for this. They also discussed having an amnesty week and decided that between December 23rd and the beginning of January, people should just return everything that they have, and there will be no fines for that during that time. So
Yay.
the theme will be start the new year fine free. So
Well, that's fun.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I did go to the Board of Ed meeting, but Bob covered everything for that. So
Okay. Thank you. Joe?
Thank you. I went to the Board of Fire Commissioners meeting on November 18th. As we're aware of, the chief talked about the dispatch problem that they're having, and so we were, I think, more aware of it now than ever before. The fire department also had two very successful events. One was for the Esposito family fundraiser. Another was their annual Touch a Truck treat. In regards to the financial budget, they're on target. In regards to an apparatus report, Engine 7, there's one last payment that has been made or will be coming up soon. Engine 3 is on order. Engine 9 is the next to be ordered because it's 26 years old. Also, the fire marshal vehicle is 13 years old and needs replacement. Also, the radio system now is on digital, and there are two important events coming up. One is Santa, which it will be December 21st, and there's a special person who's doing that. And the Snowflake Dance, the annual one, will be March 7th at the JCC. That's it.
One other thing, Santa's going out on fire trucks next
Tuesday and Wednesday.
Tuesday and Wednesday to the
Mrs.
families
Claus
here
is
in town.
going too, I heard.
Mr. and Mrs.
Both nights.
Santa and Mrs. Claus, I
Both
hear.
nights, yep. Thank you. Okay, Mika.
I attended the Recreation Commission meeting. Obviously, John was working on the budget, and they reviewed the trail event, and they'll coordinate with other events next year so that it becomes a bigger event. They're looking to get more information out to the community, so they will be approaching the local publication and see what it'll entail to get articles published in the paper itself, beyond our newsletter, because they were looking for more space there. As far as facilities and things that are concerned, pretty much going as planned. Everything is going well. Revenues were down a little bit again, primarily because of the competition with the pools in the other areas. JCC last year obviously wasn't open, and that's but the expenses are also down, and they're down in proportion. So skating rink was ordered and at this point delivered, and I believe they're looking at putting it out at the center. I don't know when it was, that was before they received it, but we should be seeing that soon.
I signed a PO, I think. I saw it fly by, so.
Probably gonna get a little colder.
Yeah, it's got to get a little nippier. We're going to have a swimming pool rather than an ice rink.
The road race did bring in just under $3,000 net revenue, and the rec commission is again in that commission is again donating $3,600 to the Woodbridge Food and Fuel Fund again this year.
So
And
nice.
that, obviously most of that revenue comes from the road race itself. I also attended the Economic Development Commission. Betsy, I don't know if you're going to talk about beautification. I'll save it. So there is we spent time talking about a beautification plan down primarily in the business district, which would be planters, the half-barrel type planters, to provide a consistent type of once you come into town off of the exit 59 interchange, there's something that would give a little bit of an identity to the town and the business district with some consistent plantings, and also with the intent of changing them seasonal and making them something that we can would be consistent throughout the town. A couple of folks on the economic development they've divvied up different tasks, and a couple of folks are looking at what potentials there might be with tax abatements or incentives and as a way to attract businesses. There is also a commercial property owners forum being planned so that we can get some of the commercial property owners in, so we can have some conversations with them in terms of some of the things that
There's
could
2
happen.
meetings, I think, right? We're gonna have 2. Yeah, I saw
So,
that. Yeah.
There was a happy hour that Beth mentioned earlier that was well attended. It was great talking to some of those folks. Betsy gave in a report as relates to the Healthy Downtown seminar I believe was a seminar that you attended. She also provided the holiday guide and talked a little bit about the border signs, and those are the signs that they were looking to put up where at the entrances to Woodbridge. And that's about it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Just
Okay.
one quick. Did we post the agenda online 24 hours in advance? Because people went
Here we
online last
go.
night. No,
Okay.
they asked, and it wasn't online, so I was just
No, it
curious.
doesn't have to be. We called Tom Hennig.
No, it doesn't.
from
Okay, I
it.
was just
I'm gonna
curious.
read you exactly what he wrote back.
No, but is it
Yeah.
our plan to do that, or is it our plan not to do that?
Okay. First of all, the only,
curious.
this is from Freedom of Information.
Okay.
The only freedom of information required for a municipality when it comes to website postings is for special meetings. Those agendas must be posted at least 24 hours before the meetings on websites.
Okay.
And the words in Tom wrote, because Stephanie wrote to him, and yes, you are correct, the words "if available" are in the statute. All other website postings are at the discretion of the public agency, not under the jurisdiction of the Freedom of Information Connection. So unless the meeting was a special meeting, there are no worries. What happened was the agenda was filed correctly at 1:45 yesterday afternoon in the town clerk's office. So I understand that there was no one who was able to put them on, to post them, so it went up
Okay.
early this morning.
Okay.
But that was the
No,
only
I was
reason.
just curious. So it is,
Normally,
but
they post them, it's
it
just
is
that-
our plan to post them online.
Totally, we've been doing.
Okay, I just wanted to.
Yeah,
No, I
always
understand
we've done
that.
it. It was
Last
just that-
night, yesterday, I got a few calls this morning, so.
This was
They wanted
posted
to-
online, but it's just within the
It went
morning
up this
rather than
morning,
going
but
on
it was
the-
required
I
not
understand.
to.
I'm not arguing.
But
I
it
was
did
just-
get
but it
filed
is- okay.
legally, properly.
Okay,
on
so
time.
it is our plan to do that. Okay. that's
We've
fine.
always done it, it's just that
No,
the
no, no, I'm
person-
not arguing, but
Yeah.
it just.
We
I
wouldn't
didn't know.
stop now just for any reason randomly. Yep,
Okay,
okay. And it would have been posted yesterday if there was someone available to do it in Stephanie's office. But
Okay.
she's not required to do so.
okay.
Okay, super. Thanks for asking. I was prepared just in case.
No,
it
no,
came
no,
up.
it just, somebody called me this morning and just
Yeah,
asked me
thanks for,
questions.
okay. So now we move on to number 8, committee reports, personnel. Personnel policies and action as appropriate. I hope you had these in enough time to read them, or you want to
We can
We're
certainly
gonna
go through them
wing
if you'd
through
like.
them? Is there anything, anybody have any comments on these?
These are all approved by the Personnel Committee
Yeah.
Right.
with various changes and updates.
Policies now, these are revised?
Yes, some are revised, some are new. Some are revised from many years ago, some are revised from a few years
Betsy
ago,
first
and some
came
are
to me
new.
2 years ago with these, so we've been working for a while. One of them was typed apparently, right? Was
Yes,
that how,
that was the
that's how
workplace-
old it was?
The violence one, I think, right?
Yeah, so,
Carbon copy type?
Yes.
Typewriter type.
so, the personnel committee went through them, as I said.
You do the,
And prior to Terry Schatz leaving, if you recall, Terry Schatz was a former selectman. She does this for a living, and she was very helpful to us.
Yep.
She has since left, obviously, so she couldn't be a part of it anymore, but she went through all these for us before she left the personnel committee and gave us some actual very good additional points and recommendations. So those have all been incorporated.
And you've looked at them.
I'll make a motion that we
Thank you, Joe.
approve the draft personnel policies as contained in our packet.
I'll
second.
Okay, thank
Second.
you. Any discussion on any of them or questions?
So compliment Betsy on.
Betsy, what a big sigh of relief. I heard that from over here. Yay!
We didn't vote yet.
No,
it's
I
not
know. I just heard, I heard the sigh of relief that we're getting there. Okay, so let's call the vote. All in favor?
Who's second?
Dwight.
One second.
Okay,
Favor?
so that's
All
done.
right. Okay.
Okay, now you can do an even bigger sigh. We did, yeah.
There you go.
Big sigh. Okay, thank you, Betsy,
Ordinances.
for all your work on that. Okay, now I'll turn to item B, which is Ordinance Committee, and I'll turn it over to Mika, Chairman of Ordinance.
There were 3 ordinances that were reviewed in the last ordinance committee meeting, and the vote was taken to bring them forward to the Board of Selectmen. The first relates to blighted premises. There was a change suggested, there was a change recommended to the blight ordinance, whereby we would add some language that specifically address grass and weeds and dead fallen trees, etc. You see it in your package there in terms of what we're doing. Needless to say, the intent on this is to make sure we have a means by which we can be sure, or at least take action if there is an abuse in terms of the appearances of property. Correct.
Exterior blighted.
Correct.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's been a number of instances that have been pointed out to us recently in particular, and we felt it was time to take action on it. So this is the result of that. Okay. So the second item is stormwater management, and you've got the actual document in your package, and Jerry was good enough to send out the red lines earlier today. In the hopes that you could see the actual differences. But basically, there was language required in our ordinance, to bring us up to compliance with what the state requires. So Warren and his team, Kelly in particular, reviewed it. We had a consultant who was actually involved with this as well, and in terms of not only helping us with this, but also in terms of our work that we needed to do to come to compliance. So this is.
Yes. Worked with Kelly, we had several meetings, and she's worked with the consultant, so yes, this is the result of getting us now in compliance with the state statute.
Sorry.
No, that's all right, good. So, and the last item was the Agricultural Commission. There's been a groundswell of support from local farmers and other residents in terms of having a separate agricultural commission as opposed to a committee or an entity that's associated with one of our existing commissions. This has been going on for quite some time, and after a significant amount of discussion on it, we felt it was time to add the agricultural commission as a body to our existing ordinance. There was also discussion, and I'll say this because it's in our next committee meeting, we'll be looking at the commissions as a whole to determine if there are any commissions that we may want to look at taking out of the ordinance, and if they're not meeting and if they're not performing a particular function. So that'll be the next step, understanding that obviously we don't want to create more government necessarily just for the purposes of it, but certainly in this case there was a significant amount of support for this, and it's consistent with our sustainability efforts and other areas that we work with. So those are the three.
I'll make a motion that we approve the revised blight ordinance, the stormwater management ordinance revised, and the agricultural commission ordinance as contained.
I'll second that, but I know there's probably going to be some discussion on some of
That's
these.
fine.
Yeah. So it's on the table now for discussion. I'll open it for discussion. And then I think I have another question before I forget. After we approve these, then we have to call a meeting, public hearing for January 8th, right? Yes. Yay, we're going to be so busy. Okay. So I know, Sandy, you mentioned to me you had a question.
So I have a question about the name of the Agricultural Commission. It's entitled Woodbridge Advisory Agricultural Commission. I don't understand why the word advisory is in there, in the title. We have no other commissions that have advisory. A commission is a commission. I mean, I have no problem under the duties and powers to say the commission shall be advisory, not only, to take out the word only, but the commission shall be advisory to the Board of Selectmen. That's fine. But I don't think advisory should be.
There's no legal requirement to have it in the title.
Right. I would suggest taking.
Advisory under the state statute.
Anyway, right. So I would propose that we would take that out, and then under duties and powers, to say the commission shall be advisory, take out the word only, and just say to the Board of Selectmen.
It's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anybody have any other comments on any part of that, or any of the other changes? Okay. So, that being said, we have to vote on these one at a time, or can we do it all together?
I just put
You
them
have to
all in
amend your
one
motion.
motion.
You have to amend your
There you go.
motion to
Thank you.
include the changes.
Uh,
Right right? You gotta amend the motion.
Amend the motion to
include the
incorporate
changes
the changes as just
For the
discussed.
agriculture.
Friendly amendment.
Friendly amendment.
Right.
As-
Okay,
as
I'll
out-
second that again. Okay, wonderful. All right, so we will now call the question.
Yep.
Approve all these? Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, and then I believe that we have to vote to call a public hearing. And so notice it as it's supposed to be noticed. Jerry, you know how to do all that, thank you. And we'll have that for January 8th at a specific time.
Great.
Okay?
So we haven't voted for that, that just comes with it.
Do we have to vote for that?
Oh, you have to vote for that.
Yeah.
And we gotta vote.
I'll make that motion. I'll make that motion that we call the public hearing for January 8th as applicable to all laws and, okay.
I'll second.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions or discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Yep.
Thank you. All right.
Just wanted to also thank the other committee members, Joe and Beth and Jerry and Tony for their efforts in this.
Well, back at you for making this happen. These are a lot of things that were going for a long time. So thank you, Mika. I just did. Yeah.
Thanks, Chairman.
Yeah. Back at you is what I said. Okay, where are we? Number 10. Administrative Officer, Director of Finances report.
Thank you, Beth.
Yeah, thanks.
So we're doing very well so far this year. We have a budgetary surplus of about $100,000. So far, the two main items that have come up to our attention is our charge for services are doing well. We have a surplus probably around $50,000. Our building permit fees are doing well. Conveyance fees are doing well compared to our budget. So those are some of the contributors.
Those service fees have anything to do with the transfer station?
No, I would say the transfer station, because we started late, is probably a little behind right now. But it's trending as we had hoped. It's just delayed 2 months, so we're a little behind. Plus, we didn't institute some of the other fees that we were going to do after 6 months. So once you institute those, we have been seeing, though, the payments by the haulers for these services that we charged. So that's been very positive. And we'll do a full report. We probably put that in February because, January 8th is going to be pretty busy, right?
Let's pile it on. Jammies. What'd you say, Joe?
2 meetings in
We could do that if you want to. I know you love meetings, so let's do it.
I don't like meetings, but I don't like sitting 4 or 5 hours.
I know.
The only expenditure really worth noting at this point is the vacant position we've discussed previously that we haven't filled in the Selectmen's budget. So
There is no plan to.
and there's no plan to do that.
No plan to replace the vacant communications director in Garnett's running position. Just put that
Right.
out there.
Okay.
Okay.
Those are the main items. Okay.
Okay.
And
What?
funding.
Yeah, we got to get to it. We got the monthly report.
He was saying he's finished, and so we're.
Oh, he's finished with that part of it.
all right.
Now we go to item B. I got to be quick, I guess, right? I'm not quick enough. Anyway, funding requests, and they're in order this time, I hope. Thanks, Jerry, again. Welcome back, by the way, Mrs. Shaw. Funding request number, line item it's actually a transfer, is there a?
Yep.
Okay.
That's correct.
So it's not really a request, it's a transfer. Line item transfer to 1920-08 in the amount of $2,500 for the repair and replacement of equipment for government access television. Please see attached memo from PUA, who happens to,
There's actually 2 requests from PUA, and they're both in the same memo.
okay, that's correct.
One's the grant, and one's minor funds for some equipment.
So the 2,500 is coming out of technical,
Right.
and I'm sure you've all read PUA's memo.
Yep.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the first one. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
PUA's ready just in case. Okay, and second funding request is also from PUA in the same memo. Transfer grant funds to the Center Gym Technology projected budget account. And the memo's in there, and I'll make a motion that we approve number 1920-09 in the amount of $28,753. It's from the grant to this project.
Second.
Okay, great. It's first and seconded, and I have to comment that I was at the Veterans Day ceremony, and it sounded like wah, 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 when I watched. I'm so glad we're doing this.
you can't
It's
hear it.
desperately needed, so this is very good. Thank you. All right, as first and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. Tax refunds.
No, there's one more.
One more,
Oh.
yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah, you're right. Request for funding number 1920-10 in the amount of $11,075. Pay for July through September utilities at the Country Club of Woodbridge. Utility funds were removed from the FY20 budget.
That's
Do you want to add to that a little?
I just want to
Tony?
make a comment,
Thank you.
that this is our first contingency request of the year. So far, we're doing very well, so.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so this
As
wraps
long
up the
as the
cost.
snow gods.
Correct.
The cost, all utility, nothing else for
They're
the
all
country
done.
club. This
Yep,
is it.
That's
Okay.
it. Electricity's been shut
It's a
off.
wrap.
The water's been shut.
Okay,
Rats have been fed.
That's right.
yeah, whatever.
Okay, so.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I'll make a
great,
motion
Tony.
that we
Go ahead,
accept,
Dwight.
okay, funding request
Thank you. Is
19,
there a
20,
second?
10.
Okay, who seconded that? Okay. Okay, any discussion or further questions on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And now to tax refunds. You have in your packet from our tax collector, there were no personal property refunds, there were no real estate refunds, there were voter. Ooh, you made me stay, Jerry.
I make a motion to approve.
Wait a minute, $6,371.25. So you make a motion that we approve that? I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Fuel oil purchasing cooperative authorized to lock in price. Tony, take it away.
So every year about this time, we have a fuel oil purchasing cooperative. It's actually gasoline, diesel fuel, and heating oil. And it consists of, the town of Woodbridge does all the paperwork, by the way, and all the organizing. But
What are you gonna do?
it includes Amity, Orange Board of Ed, Town of Orange, Woodbridge Board of Ed, Town of Woodbridge, Region 16, Bethany, the Bethany Board of Ed, and our newest participant, the Naugatuck Board of Ed.
Pretty cool, huh?
We must be doing something right because we keep getting members. Maybe it's because we do all the
And that
legwork.
helps us, you know, right? And I mean, it-
So the bigger the pool,
Yeah,
the
better.
better our
Yeah,
price.
yeah.
That's a good thing.
The word is out.
That must be, you
So
know,
why, every year, why doesn't someone just rotate around?
because if we don't, if it'll, I'm sure.
It's
if we try
easier
to do
for
that,
somebody
it'll
to-
fall
Gets
apart.
done
the right
No
way.
one else
No,
will
once
do
you do it, once you get a routine
Yeah.
going, it's a
We
lot
have,
easier.
we have it in a, we have it set up in a formula, and it's a format that we update stuff.
That's great, Tony.
So
Thank-
anyway,
thank
we
you
have
for
to
doing
get
that every
approval to
year.
lock in because typically the prices only last an hour. I mean, the market's always changing, so we wouldn't have time to come back to the board for approval. We have to lock in within an hour or so.
I'll make a
Or
motion that we
price changes.
authorize,
So usually it's consultate, you know,
okay, Tony with consultation with me to lock in the price when the time is right. For fuel oil.
We have the authority to do that too for all those participants?
no, we're just locking in our price.
Just our prices?
Yeah. It's,
So
they
they all
have their,
can-
they need their own authority to lock in for
So
themselves.
they can decide that when they want to do their own?
The prices are good only one time for everybody, but they all have to go to their own boards to get similar approvals.
That's
to lock
similar,
in.
okay.
Right, but who decides what the best price is?
We all get together and we pick the lowest price.
Okay.
It's actually pretty simple. Yeah. The only, every once in a while, there's something will happen where it's unusual but for the most part, we just take the lowest price.
I'll second the motion, mate.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion?
No, I was just curious, okay, what buildings are still on heating oil?
None
Lot
for
of them are-
us.
Huh?
It's only the other towns have some heating oil.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, so, okay,
There's
we don't
Bethany's
have any,
heating oil. No, we don't.
we don't use any more heating oil in
No.
our town, okay.
So we only participate in gas and diesel.
Right, okay, all right,
Okay,
okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, and we have
Oh, I have
another, other.
Yeah, so, we had, Andy Rizzo from the, former building official from the city of New Haven was helping us interim in, the building official's office. And, we had other inspectors from various towns that were helping fill in. And, starting on January 1st, which his first real day will be January 2nd, Andy has, accepted the position part-time as our permanent building official. So he's hoping that he can do the job in about 20 hours a week.
He's a good guy.
We looked at the position.
No,
You
he's
know,
a
we
good guy.
re-examined the position and it was
I've worked
pretty
with
much
him in New
determined that
Haven.
we
He's
didn't
good.
need a full-time because Chris Sullivan took on those extra duties.
Right,
And,
Right.
so we're now a part-time building official and he did it, so he's pretty much willing to
was
come back
he
and
was
do it again.
instrumental in transitioning it
Yep.
from full-time to a part-time.
And we got nothing but good reports from everyone about him.
He's worked with the fire marshal,
And
Joe,
yeah,
too.
I
They're
know,
very good, they're
yeah.
very good friends, they're
Yeah.
well together.
So I
May
think it's
have
gonna
been
be a
more
very good
yes.
thing.
Did it have to go
That's
to
my goal.
personnel?
Okay.
Part-time.
But it's part-time.
It's part-time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So personnel usually just as full-time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine with me, I'm just asking.
That's fine,
Okay.
good.
So that's just a good
That's a good
announcement and
thing.
some
That's
cost
good.
savings.
It
and-
May have, been
You know,
more
these
appro-
things happen through attrition and it works out so well.
Might have been more appropriate for me to mention it during ordinance, but the enforcement of that may be something that you just want to consider in terms of responsibilities.
Okay.
So,
Yep, thank you. Okay. Betsy, Assistant Administrative Officer's report.
So as Mika mentioned, we've got the Woodbridge Holiday Guide out right now. That's a compilation of the different holiday events going on through the end of this month. And I'm now working on the next poster, which is about health and wellness. After everyone's had enough Christmas cookies, a lot of people start thinking about trying to get healthy in January and February. So I'm trying to put all of that stuff together. So if there's anyone that has a business or organization that has a health or wellness event, they should contact me this week or very early next week, so I can get that out by early January or before January, ideally. Regarding the wayfinding signs, I've submitted an application for review of encroachment permit to the DOT for the town's 10 Welcome to Woodbridge signs. Those are the wayfinding signs that we've been talking about for quite some time now. So in the near future, I think there'll probably be some back and forth on exactly where each of those signs will go. And once that's been determined, I can start looking for sponsors, and ideally, we will have signs in the ground this spring or summer. And lastly, just so you know, the LED project, the light conversion project that was discussed and approved last month, is going to get started tomorrow morning at the firehouse.
Wow, wonderful.
That's it.
That's good.
You're just checking them off the list.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Yeah. And the poster was quite nice for December.
Thank you.
Yeah, I saw it in a
It
few
really was
businesses. It was
great.
really good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hearing a little bit of feedback, not a lot, but I'm hoping that it starts to catch on and it'll be useful to people.
Yeah, and then I think if they're up in specific sites all the time, people will look for them.
And get used to it, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Right.
Okay. Any questions for Betsy?
Nope.
Okey doke. Okay, Jerry Weiner, Town Council's report, item A.
So A is something that Jerry Shaw brought up to me, that we do this every year, and we actually did approve one grant, right, Jerry? In the past, this is the second one, it's identical to the first one. So we do it every year, and we reauthorize this, so I'd ask that somebody make a motion.
I'll second it.
There you go.
You guys can duke out the so move. Okay, any discussion on all this? You had it in your packets, I think, on Friday.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
The, who knows about, Tony, you know about this, right?
We're selecting
I'll make a
executive
motion, we
agreement.
authorize the first selectman to execute.
The grant,
agreement for
okay.
Yes, I know about
grant
that.
To
Yep.
purchase a
Right.
wheelchair accessible vehicle.
Yep.
Second.
And it's a grant.
Yeah,
It's a grant.
sorry it was
We-
used up
it's,
so many trees to send it to you, but,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
80-20.
I didn't read it all.
yeah.
It's 80-20 grant, and we have the funding for the 20% already.
Great.
Okay.
Where do we have that?
It's in our capital budget, was approved last year.
Okay.
Okay.
Joe, right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is the,
I will make a motion. to
Thank
approve
you.
the Board of Selectmen meeting dates
wow,
for 2020.
for those in the audience, it's approving the,
a roll.
Trying to get a hold of it.
it's the Board of Selectmen dates for 2020, for those folks that are watching at home. You made a motion,
Second.
Joe seconded, any discussion on any of these, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And once again, I'll make a motion that we acknowledge receipt of the town clerk's report. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? All in favor? Thank you. I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of October 10th as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Does anyone have any additions, changes? That was the October 10th special meeting.
Right, the union contract.
Any changes, additions, anything? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And the October 15th minutes are in your packet. Wait a minute.
October 15th.
I'll make a motion, we approve those. Is there a second? Any questions, changes, additions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. October 21st. I'll make a motion, we approve them as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
This is getting funny. They're laughing out there. Look at, we're ticking them off. We have a first, any additions or changes or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And one more. I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes of November 13th, 2019 as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Joe. Any additions or changes, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Wow, thank you. Phew. And last on the agenda is the second executive session pursuant to section 1-200, parens 6 and parens D and parens of the Connecticut General Statutes regarding sale of a portion of the former country club of Woodbridge. Is there-
I'll make a motion, we go into executive session for that purpose.
Second.
Thank you, and we'll invite in Jerry Weiner and Tony.
All in favor?
He's on a roll
Come
today.
on over to this chair, man.
Yeah, he's on a roll.
Trying to get you home.
We're changing procedure now with the.
Okay.
Takes over.
So, we'll just, Jerry's going to present something to us and related to the country club. So you guys, if you want to go
So
home,
we're in executive.
feel free. And